J. Johnson, welcome to Longer Tables, my man.
How are you? It's great to see you.
It's so good to see you. I want everybody to know here that I tried to get you before, and you were so nice. And I was having a rough day with myself, and I had to cancel last second on you, and you already were with me, and you say, Jose, don't worry, my man. And here we are a week later. Thank you, JJ, for being a good friend. Thank you for being who you are.
No, thank you, Jose. Thank you for being who you are. I think you are allowed to have bad days. You are saving the world all the time, so it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, listen. I born in '69. You born in '84. You are I'm a little bit, I would say, wiser than you only by age. If age gives you wisdom, which sometimes is never the case.
True,
So
true that.
you born in Long Island, New York, and your roots are Caribbean. I mean, you're like a Hamilton. I mean, your grandparents came from Barbados, Puerto Rico, Mississippi, North Carolina. I mean, you're the Hamilton of chefs, my man.
Yeah, I'm the Hamilton of chefs. That's a great way to put it. I also consider myself like a true American baby, a true kid of the African diaspora. I mean, that's what America's about. I mean, my grandfather's parents came through Ellis Island. My grandmother from North Carolina came on a church bus to Harlem. And my Puerto Rican grandmother was born in Puerto Rico and then brought to the States right away. So, all those stories that we hear in today's society about what America is, I mean, I was living with those people growing up. And I moved from Long Island at a very young age to Pennsylvania, to the Poconos.
So you are immigrant of immigrants. You are the ultimate American immigrant.
Yes. So we have something in common.
Yeah, but my God, the richness of all the backgrounds that you have in your blood, it's just beautiful. It's part of who you are. It's part
Yes.
of what made you still at a very early age for a chef. You're bringing all of these, even if you don't realize sometimes, into your cooking, into your life, into the stories you tell.
Yeah,
Your family and your ancestors are there all the way because you are rich, not because hopefully you're making a good living with your TV and your cookbooks and your restaurants, but you are rich because the ancestry that is so rooted deep within you.
Yeah, no, the ancestry is very deep in me. That's what I'm celebrating when I'm cooking. I didn't realize that, Jose, until I went to Ghana and found myself through food. Because when you're an American kid, right, you want to just be American, right? And you don't realize that you are the people in your family, the ancestry of my family is America. And I didn't really find out that later in life. My dad raised me as a black boy, very conscious to society. The table at my house when my grandmother would cook was very long.
Longer tables?
Very long table. Very
So,
great
so
moments.
before we go to Ghana, so you say Pennsylvania. I mean, you grew up in the Poconos.
Correct.
What do you remember of you growing up in the Poconos?
I remember cooking with my Puerto Rican grandmother with a table the size of 12 seats, being with my great aunts. It's where everything happened at my grandparents' house. Yes, I thought my aunts were my great aunts when I was growing up. I found out later in life they were my great aunts. And And then as I grew up in the Poconos, there were in a lot of great places to eat. We would come to New York City a lot because I had a lot of family in New York City still. But we rode four wheelers. People would go hunting. I ate venison at a very young age. Um, and it was fun. It was vibrant. It was fulfilling. Um, there was definitely a community being built around the table with friends that I was meeting in school, with people that were in our lives every day. And my childhood was just when I look back, I had a really, really great childhood, being able to grow up early ages with my grandmother, but my whole life with my grandfather from Barbados. He was he was with us for a very long time. He lived to 97 years old, 95 years old, and he was a big foundation of why or who I am today.
So the Poconos was the United Nations of food very much. Puerto Rico, Barbados, people from Poconos, everybody else. I read in your Wikipedia, and I think you told me that you really grew up reading your grandma's cookbooks. So I guess she had a lot of written recipes that probably were coming from her mom or her grandmom,
Yeah, yeah.
and that those written books, family books, they had a big influence on you.
Yeah, no, they had a big influence on me. They have tons of notes. She would write tons of notes in the book. You know, I think we all laugh, right, when we want to be authentic to something we cook, right, as authentic as we can be. But, you can't see all the words in the recipes in those books, right? Some of them have those oil stains and water stains on them, so you can read as much as you can read. They're written maybe in a different language that I can't read. But yeah, they were a big influence. It was a way. My grandmother passed away. My Puerto Rican grandmother passed away when I was 7, 8 years old. It was a big way I was able to stay connected with her, right? My grandfather would hand me these books and say, I know you miss her cooking or being with her in the kitchen when I was 9 or 10 years old. And he would give me these books that I would filter through and look at. So, um, somebody's calling.
No, yeah, I am the one doing this one, and I, for some reason, even
It's
it's
all good.
silent, is more things. Keep going. Yeah,
So,
I'm receiving messages, and we are receiving messages as we are speaking together, my man. I think this was my wife saying, "Where are you?" I'm like, well, yeah.
my wife is here today too, Jose, and she was like, you're taping with Jose?
I,
Why didn't you tell me this?
I think I have everybody on silence, but somehow my wife always sounds, which
Yeah,
is not a bad thing.
not a
It's
bad
not a
thing at
bad
all.
thing.
You're not supposed to put your wife on. She's not supposed to have the silence on.
So you growing in the Poconos, your grandma, your dad, longer tables, that long table that you had, those meals. Any dish that you remember from that childhood that still to this day you say, "Wow, I wish I could have that dish again done by my grandma."
Yeah, my grandmother used to make an amazing asopao, that she would drink out of a coffee cup and like
Tell,
walk around the
tell our
house.
pe- tell our people that may not know what asopao is, and I
So
forgive them. If you don't know what asopao is and you are part of longer tables, we forgive you. Don't worry. That's why we are a big family. Longer tables, we make each other better. But please, Puerto Rican ancestry, describe to our family what asopao is.
I mean, the best way I describe it is soupy rice. Um, it is a soupy rice dish that could be with chicken, pollo asopao, or with seafood. And my grandmother would make it with chicken in it. She would boil. She would make her own stock, Jose. She would take the whole chickens, 4 or 5 chickens, dump them in the pot, make her stock, pull that meat apart, use that broth to make her beautiful asopao. I mean, she had a restaurant going on in her house. It was an amazing thing looking back in time.
I think anybody that eats asopao, obviously asopao, first time I went to Puerto Rico close to 30 years ago, in a different way than yours, but in a way the same. At the end, Spain came to the Caribbean, came to America. Spain is big in rice. Puerto Rico is big in rice. Uh, Asopao, without a doubt, is a very Puerto Rican item, dish. But in a way, I see Spain and
Mm-hmm.
my own ancestors in asopao. And if you can have un asopao de pollo, a lobster asopao, I mean, seafood is so many variations, right?
Correct.
Uh, to me, it's like home. You tell me how many times you've been to Puerto Rico, visiting your ancestors' home.
Oof. Probably a good 20, 30 times
No,
in
no,
my
good.
life.
But that's not the question. The question is, first time you went to Puerto Rico,
Oh, first time I went to Puerto
how
Rico.
was? Do you remember that moment? Because you born in the States, you have your ancestors, but then I remember being born in North Spain, Asturias, and I was 16 when from Barcelona I took a train to go back to the city I was born. But when I left, I had no memory. But in a way, when I arrived by train, I remember it was around Christmas, and my entire family on my mom's side was waiting for me. It's very hard to explain, but people I never met before, I met them, but I was a little boy and I was unaware. And I'm going back 12, 14 years later after I was born. And they were waiting for me there. And all of a sudden, well, you will say every moment was new to me, and I didn't belong there because I was very little when I left. Everything to me was almost like, oh my God, I've been here before. Did you have that feeling going first time back to Puerto Rico? Because the connection with your grandma, the connection in your blood. The first time that you went there, I want to know if you remember any anxiety, any feelings, your heart pumping. What was like?
So yeah, the first time I went to Puerto Rico, I was 9 years old, and we actually visited a place called Ponce, which my grandfather's best friend that lived in New York, that was Puerto Rican, lived there. My grandmother was passed away at this time, so we actually went to Puerto Rico at a time when my grandmother, without my grandmother.
Ponce
Um,
is the second biggest city in Puerto Rico. It's in the south of Puerto Rico. It's a beautiful city in the middle of the Caribbean.
yeah,
Keep going.
and I can see it now. It was a house that was risen above the ground. We all sat outside on like a front porch or deck. There was a good 20 of us. There was cousins, there was aunts, there was people I've never met before. And the house, the food of the home smelt like my grandmother's home. So when you talk about the heart beating, my heart was beating because that was the biggest connection that I had with my grandma my abuela Iris. So my heart was beating, and that first bite of food I had there was a dish I can't never pronounce well, Jose, which was acapulco. Right? I'm chopping it up,
Al,
right?
Alcapurria.
Acapulco.
Don't worry, it's a lot of words I cannot pronounce. I cannot pronounce myself.
And
Alcapurria.
acapulco. And I
So
remember,
I describe to our friends what alcapurria is. It's a fritter, very traditional in Puerto Rico.
very traditional. This was stuffed with some meat, some olives. The outside is not crispy, but crispy, kind of bakish, fried moment. It's one of my favorite dishes to today. I wish I saw it on more menus in restaurants. But when you bite into it, you get some crispiness, you get that steam, you get that aroma of sofrito, and then you get this very moist of ground beef. That was the first dish that I had in Puerto Rico in Ponce, with a bunch of people, with my heart beating out of my chest because the kitchen smelled like my grandmother's.
So yeah, the alcapurrias can be traditionally made out of the 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 plátano verde, the green bananas that we see sometimes more and more in markets across America. Can be made also out of yuca, and you kind of made a dough with that green banana or the yuca, even is used potato now. It's many different versions. And then, as he said, it's filled with traditionally kind of a meat stew, and it's like it's like an empanada. It's like a fritter of dough. But what happened? The outside is not made out of flour, but it's made of, again, of a root or the fruit of a palm tree, like the banana. And once you have this, it's unbelievable. It's like the perfect finger food. It's the perfect home food. You can eat it in the streets. You can eat it in the next to a little shack on the road anywhere in Puerto Rico. So I love that you love that. But listen, in my introduction, I I mentioned that you have an obsession. I would say more a love from the heart with rice. We already spoke about asopao and the connection with your grandma. But in a way, even you are a chef that you have very different. You're doing books, you're doing TV, you're doing research, you're looking into who you are through food. The visit to Ghana is one moment that rice becomes a very important centerpiece, one ingredient. I mean, we have tens of thousands in ingredients in this planet. But explain to us why rice became this kind of important ingredient to tell your story, and more important, to tell the story of many other people. Tell us why rice became important in J.J. Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back, Lulu. Let's go back. Let's go back in time. Like, I grew up with boxed rice, right? My grandmother passes away. My parents are working parents. My mom has to cook every day now. A lot of mothers, right, had to cook every day and work. And my mom was making instant rice, right? And in America, rice in the 90s were looked down upon. You know, like if you had rice at the table, it wasn't a luxurious ingredient. And as I went off to culinary school, I never thought about rice, Jose, at all, right? Maybe there was small rice cookery, how to make rice pilaf, how to make paella, but that was really it. And I go on my risotto. I go on my culinary journey to become a chef or to work in kitchens, and never touch rice and never see rice on the plate. Never. I'm not even thinking about rice or in the restaurants that I'm working in. So I take this journey to Ghana, and the first moment I have in Ghana with the place I'm cooking at, Villa Monticello, the team is making a Senegalese dish called tebujan, which I had no idea what tebujan at that time was, which is a beautiful, large pot of rice that is layered with seafood, sometimes, fried local fish, large chunks of vegetables, some dried seafood, a lot of fermented going on. And everybody before, it was like people were just pushing away the seafood and using their hands to grab the beautiful tebujan and eating it. And I'm the guy grabbing the beautiful fried snapper or the fried grouper and eating that first. And then I took a step back and I'm looking at the food through the cook's eyes and saying, well, why is everybody getting so excited about rice? And I came back from that trip doing deep research on West African cooking, but also started to learn through researching West African food that rice was a significant ingredient, right? That came from West Africa through the Caribbean into the Americas, and it was a cash crop. And there was these beautiful grandma grains that used to fuel America. And I started to do deep research on those grains. And I also learned that rice is not just produced in China. It was a major product of West Africa, and it got blacklisted at a point. And I started to go down this rabbit hole and really realizing that rice was this greatest connector, what I consider the greatest connector for all cultures. And I could express myself being this kid of multiple ancestries of people, that I could start to express myself through rice on the plate, because I can make different dishes that would tell people who I was. And that was my first iteration of seeing rice being beautiful. And then I started to travel or get invited to and cook in places like Israel and visiting rice farms in India and going to Singapore and going to those places. Once the rice came to the table, it was like a party. And that's when I really got the realization that rice is a star ingredient and maybe I can champion rice.
So this is the moment you realize rice was going to be your focus, your mission. That
Yeah,
was
right.
that was a life-changing trip for you.
Oh, Ghana was a life-changing trip for me. I mean, friends were telling me, my wife now at that time, somebody I was dating seriously would tell me, you need to go to the slave castles in Ghana. They're going to change your life. I never got to go to the slave castles, but food changed my life in Ghana. I really got to learn who I was as a person. I got to realize I was a kid of the African diaspora. And a lot of the aromas and the flavors in that trip were very familiar to me, of ingredients and flavors I grew up with in my household.
So I'm only guessing and I'm listening that you have a trip that you have to take very soon to go back again to Ghana and obviously visit those, unfortunately, slave castles that create so much harm during centuries.
Correct.
What you're describing in a way is that out of all these hardships, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends how you explain the story, out of the suffering of all these people is always something that comes out that you can at least celebrate.
Correct.
When you're celebrating all these dishes you are describing, putting aside all the dark side of the story, the goodness of the story in present, something you can build up into the future, is all these stories you are describing to me about your ancestors, your connection, in this case, through rice, and obviously it's many more ingredients. To me, when you are mentioning rice in Africa, I feel a bit, I don't feel ashamed, but I only know that the more I know, I know nothing. And you describe, everybody thinks about rice and it's Asia, and it's China, and it's Japan. And all of a sudden here you are like, hey, hello, but it's Africa too. It's West
Correct.
Africa too. And myself, which Africa is so close to Spain. And I would say I'm a guy, I'm fairly well versed. I just barely realize that also rice is many types of rice in the world, that rice was a type of rice. I'm going to rephrase myself. I also realized that rice was part of Africa. And this is what is fascinating. And I have a feeling that you and I, and many others, we are connecting in this way, that the more we know, the more we realize we know nothing. And
Correct.
the world is a fascinating place where through food we can find more and more who we are. So you came back from the trip, and then you had the idea to start kind of a rice themed restaurant, which became the field trip. Did people tell you were crazy? You are doing a rice restaurant?
Yeah, people told me I was crazy. What do you mean you're doing a rice restaurant? Nobody's gonna buy rice for this price point. Nobody wants to eat rice every day. And I'm like, hold on, everybody eats rice every day. Some people can't cook it well, but yeah, people told me I was crazy. And people also told me where I was opening it at in Harlem between 115th Street and 116th Street, Malcolm X Boulevard, was also crazy. Like, nobody in that neighborhood wants to eat better. Nobody cares that the rice comes from the farm. Nobody wants these types of flavors. What do you mean rice is culture? These are all the conversations that I was having very early on. Family members, friends, people in the industry. But I believe that, I'm a firm believer that you got to believe in yourself first. And if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail on me. I'm not going to fail on anybody else. And I believe in rice as a star ingredient, and hopefully it will draw tons of people to walk through the doors.
What year you opened Field Trip Restaurant?
Open up
More or
Field Trip
less?
2019, July of 2019.
Right 6 months before the pandemic.
Correct. 6 months before the pandemic.
So in field trip, you have amazing dishes like this roast chicken, 11 spiced chicken thighs, jollof basmati rice, wok veggies, avocado cilantro sauce, pickled red onions. I mean, I know I don't have a sexy voice, but the description just looks so amazing. Uh, he has rice dishes like the crispy fish, cornmeal crusted market fish, cilantro lime rice, wok veggies, tartar sauce, pickled red onions. Um, this restaurant is a restaurant that you were trying, just not only because it happened that way, bring people from all around Manhattan, all around the world, but you open a restaurant so you could push what the people of the neighborhood could like, pushing their taste buds and saying, I'm not cooking for the foreigners from, and I mean foreigners, people coming from other parts of New York. I want to be cooking for you. In a way, you and Marcus Samuelson, you are my heroes
Oh,
because
thank you.
you open restaurants in the places that nobody's opening restaurants. And you open the restaurants with the mentality that you want to belong, that you are there for them, that you are there to say, you matter to me. I'm not going to open in the heart of Manhattan, which this restaurant will do amazingly well. I know you open others later, but you open there to say, I'm here next to my people. And especially a place like Harlem that I feel is you more than
Yes.
Poconos, because Harlem is so much diversity. When I came to New York, I was living in the upper East Side. I live in the Upper West Side, in the Upper East Side. I was surrounded by Dominicans and Puerto Ricans and people from all over the place. And I feel you opening this restaurant was a very smart decision. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Harlem does run through my blood. My dad's from Harlem. My family lives in Harlem, so that was the first step. In like, I know at least my cousins and my aunts and my uncles would walk through the door. But when you mentioned Marcus Samuelson, when Marcus opened up Red Rooster, he took on a place in New York City that, like you said, nobody would open a restaurant. And when I opened a field trip on between 115th 116th Street, it's one of the highest unemployment corridors in New York City. It has a 22,000 household income level, which is just crazy to say out loud, and um, and we're next to a famous mosque that Malcolm X was in. So there's a lot of history on that block, and I feel we're very connected to Red Rooster and what Marcus is doing. Right, he's at the top of Lenox. I'm at the bottom of Lenox, and we are bringing what we feel and what I feel is how people should want to eat in Harlem, right? How we should be viewed in Harlem, right? And that, everybody just doesn't want a fast food restaurant that's not going to be good for them. So the goal for me was giving people a conscious option to eat better, a conscious decision to make a better choice around food, and an affordable option around a complete meal. And I think we've done that well over the last 4.5 years, Jose. It's been tough, but we are there for the people, the Harlem Nights, right? If you come from downtown, my Park Avenue ladies come. It's great. I love them, but the everyday person we're cooking for is, in that 4x4 block radius.
So if we speak about rice, and you mentioned risotto before, but I don't see risotto in your menu. Probably you have it as a special sometimes.
Sometimes.
But because you're, Puerto Rican, Caribbean, your African Spanish connection, the first dish comes to mind is jambalaya, which everybody makes fun of me when I pronounce it. But and
You
when I
did
go to
great.
when I go to Louisiana, and when I go to New Orleans, and I see obviously in the streets the names of Spanish kings and whatever, because the connection of Spain and New Orleans for many years back in time. And when I see jambalaya, which we could describe it, right? This amazing American Creole and Cajun rice dish with influences of the French, but African and Spanish.
Correct.
Jambalaya is kind of this dish that brings so many influences from, I could say, three continents: Europe, America, and Africa, and different regional countries and people. Uh, do you make a good jambalaya?
I do make a good jambalaya, but there's at field trip we have gumbo because my grandfather from Mississippi made a beautiful gumbo, and that's why we have gumbo on the menu. So there's no jambalaya, but we have gumbo with seafood gumbo with scallops and shrimp and dried shrimp and a brown roux.
Describe, give me a glimpse, if you can help me, for people that have a hard time differentiating jambalaya from gumbo.
Oh man, oh Jose, you setting me up here.
No, I can set up myself too. But tell me, what's a gumbo? What's a gumbo of your? Don't worry, we have it here. But I think it's a fair question, because it's always jambalaya. Well, I don't really make jambalaya. I make more gumbo. Well, I don't really make gumbo. I make jambalaya. I like, you say tomato, I say tomato. You say potato, I say potato. So, jambalaya versus gumbo.
I believe the biggest difference of jambalaya and gumbo is the thickness of the product, right? Like jambalaya is a little bit more soupier, gumbo's a little bit more thicker. Gumbo has gumbo has okra in it, so there's some ingredients differently.
Agree. I will say, to make it simple for people, and hopefully together we agree, that gumbo is more a soup of a stew that then is served over the rice, versus the jambalaya being more like a soupier rice style.
Correct.
Like a sopado. All the soupy rices. So that's important. And usually, because the gumbo will have the roux, which is the flour with the butter or the fat that is thicker, you serve that gumbo seafood, and also it's gumbos out of meat, but over the white rice. And then everything mixes. The jambalaya, you make the entire stock, the broth, the crayfish, the sausage, the andouille, whatever, and then you cook the rice in that broth, like if it was a paella.
Correct. Or like asopao, like you said.
Oh, asopao. And this takes me to the next one. How is your paella game, my man?
My paella game is good. It's not traditional, Jose. It's not like your paella. I put mussels in my paella because I like to have an abundance of seafood with clams and mussels.
We put mussels in Spain.
Okay. So, but no, you're talking about early on the influence of Spain in the Caribbean. My grandmother would cook a lot of paella in the house because of the Spain influence. So, and on her stovetop, and it was electric stovetop, she couldn't fit the paella pan, so she would do it in a cast iron pan to still get that crispy bottom at the bottom. And she would have like two or three cast iron pans going so that everybody could eat the paella. But I grew up with paella. I love paella. It's one of my favorite dishes all time. I'm very intrigued to see your new paella at your restaurant, how you're scraping the bottom and then slicing in some raw fish in there. I thought that was brilliant when I just read about that.
Well, this is something very, very astonishing. We began making. I have this amazing friend who is an amazing chef, or an amazing chef who is an amazing friend, Koji, who has been with me now. We've been together for many years. He was working in one of the best sushi restaurants, Sushiko, in DC. Mm-hmm. And for life reasons, I was very lucky. We began working together. And he's been with me to Spain for the last 10, 12, 15 years, often. And we always did a lot of dishes that they were Spain influences Japan or Japan influences Spain. And one day, because I had nothing, and we had to cook something quickly. We got some miso, a light miso, and we made it into a broth with some kombu, like if we were making dashi with the bonito
Mm-hmm.
flakes and then the miso. And we had the broth made already, and we had the rice, and we cooked it in a paella pan. And once the rice of miso was done, we had this fish, a red snapper from Spain, and we sliced it like sashimi. And once the rice was not too hot out of the fire, we put the slices on top. And to me, it was kind of funny because it was a Spanish technique of cooking the rice, thin, the paella pan, with with the Japanese sashimi, but with the Japanese ingredients, the miso and the kombu. And I think it's fascinating when you play with ingredients and you respect the ingredients
Correct.
and you respect the people and the traditions where they came from. I know sometimes people say, "Oh, it's too many things in this one dish," and I always say that I don't have a problem with being too many things in one dish, or too many cultures, or too many techniques. If it's done with respect and with heart, and the chef or the people that cook them has respect for all those traditions, I'm the first one I'm going to be defending them too. So what you're describing, that dish that you saw probably on Instagram, we have a great team, obviously, opening in New York. Bazaar is doing very well. Koji worked very hard. Carlos Tejedor, this amazing friend of mine, also a star Michelin chef that came to join us. Rick Billings, Charisse Dickens, so many of my team members, because the restaurant we opened in New York is Asian Spanish. It's actually Japanese Spanish. Rice is in the middle, and this paella
Right.
pan with the sukarat, it's and the sukarat actually, that technique is something like the chef that did the best work is Quique da Costa, this amazing chef in Denia, south of Valencia, in Alicante, which has a three-star Michelin. And many years ago, is the first guy that began doing one of the best paella rice books ever. But it's the first time that I saw a chef not making the sukarat in the traditional way, but making the sukarat in a more modern way, where everybody could have a bite of the sukarat. So this is our work on that technique, and I'm so glad you saw that, and I cannot wait to see you, my friend, tasting this dish, but also cooking together
Yes.
and maybe making jambalaya together.
We should make jambalaya together.
Yeah, we need to do this. We need to make asopao. You know, I spend time in Puerto Rico. I love Puerto Rico. For me, Puerto Rico changed my life in more ways than one, especially after Hurricane Maria. Asopao is a dish that I love even before I went to Puerto Rico for the first time. We need to make jumbo gumbo. We need to make paella.
Yes.
We need to make jollof rice
Yes.
together. I think you and we need to find a long weekend to bring friends and family, and during 3-4 days get ingredients,
And just cook together.
and you celebrate family, friends, all the amazing cultures we all combine come from, like your grandma in the Poconos, building longer tables.
Yes.
And well, we're going to eat a lot of rice, but
We
that's
need a lot
okay.
of rice. That's great.
So,
I love how the rice dish, Jose, connected you both when you were cooking together. The two cultures, and rice was the centerpiece. I told you, rice is the greatest connector.
you know, I sound like a grandpa, but because probably my people, if I ask the people listening to this podcast, probably by now, if I tell them, what is my favorite rice dish? And they will be amazed that there's no paella valenciana. Even I'm very proud. We make very good one. Lobster rice. In Spain, we love to make this arroz caldoso, soupy rice of lobster, but not the spiny lobster of the Caribbean, but el bogavante, the one with the two claws, like the main lobster. And I'm not gonna lie to you, my favorite rice dish. I grew up. My mom will call it arroz a la cubana.
Ooh.
Cuban Cuban rice. I put it on the menu in my Spanish restaurant. Um, it's a rice dish that never shows up in any Spanish cookbook.
What is
But
this?
but at the same time, it's a Spanish dish that every person in Spain, at the very least, eats once a week when you grow up. And this is white rice,
Okay.
perfectly boiled, that sometimes is slightly sauteed with some garlic. But if not, it's used white rice, well cooked, two fried eggs, homemade tomato sauce,
Correct.
maybe a piece of bacon or pork sausage, and maybe a piece of banana. In this case, not the green plantains, but the sweet bananas from the Canary Islands. I grew up eating this dish 2, 3 times a week. To this day, when I remember good moments of my childhood, a good moment in my childhood will be my mom allowing me to eat a second serving of arroz o huevos a la cubana. So we
It's a great.
connected big way.
It's a great dish. That is one dish that didn't make my cookbook. You know, it is insane because I'm sitting here with you and you mentioned four dishes that haven't made my new book, The Simple Art of Rice. But I think that's the greatest thing about rice. There's so many rice dishes out there.
So everybody needs to get your book.
Yes, please.
You and I we need to be cooking together.
Yes.
This we know more often. Um, I love you, my friend. I know together we are building longer tables with the many books you have already, the books you did, the books you are going to do, all the TV shows you've been part of, the amazing work you're doing in your restaurant, Field Trip, which I think the name is what it is, Field Trip. Life should be like a trip where we all dream of connecting and visiting new people, connecting through new dishes, and dishes that, in a way, keep connecting all of us, and realizing that as different we may seem, we are much more the same than people want to make us believe, because we all have those moments that we share, amazing moments because our grandma, our grandpa cook a dish for us, or because we took a trip to a faraway place we never imagined. We will find who we are right in the bowl of food in front of us.
Correct. You said it
JJ,
beautifully.
JJ Johnson, thank you for being here with us in Longer Tables. And until you and I, we cook jambalaya and paella and gumbo together. See you soon, my friend.